Welcome to the AI Autonomous Podcast, your ultimate destination for all things artificial intelligence. I'm your host, Sam Miyake, and on this show, we dive deep into the world of AI-driven processes. Whether you're a thought leader, industry expert, AI enthusiast, or just curious about the cutting-edge innovations shaping our world, you are in the right place. So, buckle up and get ready to embark on a journey into the future because the AI Autonomous Podcast starts now. My guest today is Jake Miller. Jake is a visionary product and engineering leader, founder and CEO and VCTO with a passion for innovation and technological advancement. His remarkable career journey includes contributing to the success of over 20 companies as a creator, collaborator, consultant, and champion. So without much ado, let's get to meet Jake. Firstly, I'd love you to just tell us about your journey and how you got started, and also talk about your mission. I discovered that you have a passion for building resilient teams and also nurturing this culture of innovation. It really caught my attention, and I would love you to also share about that.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll start with that, the culture of innovation, and then I'll go into my background because it'll explain or highlight what I'm doing, how I got here, and then the journey that brought this all to life. So, just in a nutshell, so EIG is an innovation agency. We help SaaS companies, so typically, sometimes startups, it used to be only startups, mid-level size companies, and even enterprises take concepts. Sometimes we even help them form, design, vet them for the market, build them, and then launch them on their behalf, which is a lot of fun. And I've always had this opinion that innovation is an empty word. And it's ironic because innovation is in my company's name. But we deliberately put engineered in front of that because innovation has to come to life or it could mean anything. And so that's very, very important. So stepping way back early on, when I was right out of high school, I started a software consultancy. Now, this was right during when the .com was exploding. And there was a lot of work. People were paying a lot of money for that work, just simple HTML web pages. I also went to college at the same time, so that helped pay for some of my education. Then I got into a startup after that. It was my very first startup. It failed miserably. It was legal software. I wasn't a lawyer. I had never ran a product company. I just didn't know so that flopped, but a lot of lessons. I eventually got into healthcare technology, worked for a big hospital system, and then a company called ExactTarget. And that's really where I think my career sort of took off, because ExactTarget was the world's largest marketing email platform at the time. But now it is a pure marketing platform across all different channels, so multi-channel product. And we were purchased, that was a company located in Indianapolis. We were purchased by Salesforce. And I stayed for a couple of years and then headed out. But my technology there was I led the team that built the marketing automation product Journey Builder, which is now a multi-billion-dollar product line. And it's really fun because every once in a while I'll talk to folks, sometimes even on interviews, and they'll say, hey, I use Journey Builder. And I'm like, wait a minute, my team built that. And they're like, oh, wow. So that's a lesson in why software is so fun, is if you build something, put it out there, and depending on the reach of all the users, and it comes back, people say they use it. That's like one of the most satisfying moments. So then I did the startup after that. It was a event-driven CRM platform. I left after 4 years and started this company, Engineered Innovation Group. And the reason I started it was I stepped back during COVID, like a lot of people, and said, what I really want to do in life. I'd had a successful career. It was a lot of fun, but I knew that I wanted to do more. I wanted to be the leader. I wanted to be the CEO. I wanted to be the person to drive the vision and bring people along. So I decided, well, I'll just go do some fractional CTO work, see how it goes. Went pretty well. By 6 months in, we had a big contract to actually build a software product. Then we grew, and we were bootstrapped, so we didn't have any investors. We went from myself to 12 employees in 6 months. And then another year after that, we are now 40 employees, which is crazy employee growth. Now, number of employees does not constitute success. Revenue and profit constitute success, which we're also doing really well at. There's obviously a need in the market. So I really just love the idea of helping many companies build software and their organizations all at the same time. It's super duper satisfying. I think so far we've helped 10 companies build products. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's an incredible journey.
Thank you. Yeah, it's had its ups and downs.
Well, yeah. And it's so interesting to hear that you're coming from the .com era. Then I think at that point, where was I? I can't remember where I was,
Yeah.
That was when you started. And it's really amazing.
Yeah. It just happenstance is like right place, right time. It was right after the .com bust. So .com was like the big thing. And it just got started at the tail end of .com being big, and it went boom, right?
Yeah.
And then no one was doing anything with it. Then slow, steady pace upward in tech. But I've always been just super fascinated with, honestly, academics and then sophisticated technology. And so it's really cool to see now between, the year 1999 and 2023, how far technology has come. Even with all the past decade of artificial intelligence technologies, neural nets, large language models, all that fun. It's just like, who could have predicted?
Yeah. Wow. No, I'm fascinated to know how you were able to cope within those environments. You had the opportunity to work in different companies with different experience levels and all. So how were you able to make the transition from one industry to another?
Great question. I think it's pure being brave, I guess is the way I would answer that. So brave doesn't mean not having fear, because I was absolutely scared of what I was going to do. Like, I'm going to this new, in fact, I'll give you a story. When I first got I call my real programming job, so I worked for another company, I was terrified. And I don't know why. I just thought I was a fraud. I didn't know what I was doing. They asked me some simple questions about SQL Server, and I could answer them. It wasn't a problem. I was terrified. But I've always, I think it's just baked into my DNA, where you just take the leap, jump. What's the worst that could happen? You'll fail, and yes, that's terrifying, but I've actually never taken a jump that I regret.
That's really strong.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
I think many people are scared of failing. I saw Stephen Barnett, if I can't remember his name fully. He said he hired, I think, a manager of failure. I think so, within his company. Now, the person's work is just to manage any project that fails. It's so interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, because there are skills that come along with being able to manage. When you see a project that's, nosediving, not doing well, it's in trouble, there's a different way to run it. That's not even necessarily just a different management style of a person. It's the processes that you're putting in place to control it. And I've very often found the primary reason for projects failing is leadership. I always make a joke, kind of a joke, that there's a reason 9 out of 10 startups fail. It's because 9 out of 10 CEOs have no business being a CEO.
Wow. I think a second to let it sink in.
That's a very strong statement. And that's why I say it's partly a joke, but partly there's a lot of truth to that.
Wow. Yeah. Wow, that's a strong one. It really took me aback.
I'm sorry.
No problem. No problem.
You weren't expecting this, were you?
I wasn't at all. All right. Let's get back to the topic so we don't get carried away.
Yeah.
Right. Given from your extensive background, what's your take on how AI is accelerating the evolution of software development?
Yeah. So what we're starting to see now, and me and my team are living it, are the tools we are using are becoming more powerful, and it's becoming faster to develop software. Being able to say to ChatGPT or pick your large language model, write code to do X, Y, and Z in this language is incredible. I mean, there are things that I'm doing. I'm not expert in Terraform, but I'm able to say, hey, I need a Terraform script that does X, Y, and Z. It gets me 80% of the way. I still have to productionize it. I still have to do tweaks, but hey, I'm able to do that in 10 minutes, not 2 hours. So the productivity gain that we're seeing is just massive. Now, where is it going? I think there's a fork in the road. I think there are two paths we're going to take. There's going to be the one path where low code, no code truly takes on, and the layman, just the regular average person, can write their own program. So we already see low code, no code tools, but they're going to get wildly easier to use and powerful. The other branch is computer science. So we still need people to understand how do data sets work? How do you store and manage massive data sets? How do you extract insights from those data sets? How do you prepare that data to be used in data science? So I see those two things happening, and the gap between them is going to grow and grow and grow and grow. And I'm not sure folks are ready for that. So when you think about coding academies, that's where I think the first risk is for developers. It is if you're learning a tech stack that's, rinse and repeat, they're just pushing people out that know React and a little bit of PostgreSQL. Those are the first jobs that are probably going to go away because there's so many people with that same level of experience. And that's, in my opinion, probably one of the first applications of pure AI generated application. So I think that's happening. And then the last thought is human computer interaction is changing, and it's going to change very fast. Towards, we're not going to use a mouse and keyboard, which has been the past 40 years of how we've interacted with technology, to voice and visual. So I call it interactive AI, where if I don't know if you're a Star Trek fan, I am. You said, hey, computer analyze. Like, okay, good. Yeah. So you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Computer analyze X, Y, and Z. And it comes back with a response and say, oh, well, maybe think about it this way. And so it really becomes a companion, and that's the interface, right? And I think it's going to take a little bit of time to get us comfortable with that. So I asked my mother-in-law, I asked someone that was, so my mother-in-law who's baby boomer, I asked someone in Gen X, I asked a millennial, which is me, and I asked a Gen Z. And I said, how comfortable are you using Siri? Do you talk to Siri once a day? Do you talk to Siri 10 times a day? Never. And the answer was generational. My mother-in-law said, oh my gosh, no, that's just weird. Gen X said, it's still a little bit weird, but I'll use it every once in a while, like set a timer. Millennials said, yeah, I use it all the time. And Gen Z said the same thing. So you see this generational pattern, and that's complete, I have no actual scientific evidence. It's completely anecdotal, but it's still an interesting experiment to see what are attitudes. And I think if you had introduced AI as it exists today 10 years ago, which a lot of people did, and we had the AI winter, it wouldn't be as widely accepted. I think society had to catch up with the technology. So there you go. That's my long-winded.
That's a lot. Yeah. I think AI changing a lot of things and even a lot of ways we do even simple tasks. Yes, not just in software alone, but it's going to affect almost everybody. So what about ethical considerations now? How do you see that play in the future?
Yeah, I think it's going to be the wild, wild west for a while. I think there is a major opportunity for a founder or even a big company to start a either open source or even a commercialized product that analyzes input and output. So how do we make sure what's being input is meeting whatever ethical standards there are that we have, and make sure the output is too. So, for example, yes, let's use machine learning techniques to find the right candidates for a role, but on the output, let's make sure that there's the right balance of the types of people and backgrounds, race, ethnicity, religion in that output data set to ensure that it's not biased. I think we'll start seeing that pop up. I am very afraid of government regulation because we all know government regulation is slow and it will stifle the innovation. And that scares me. At the same time, I understand why we do it, but man, we've got to be smart about that or all this stuff.
So do you think in the future, government regulation is going to minimize how AI is going to get rolled out and is going to affect how software in the future is going to be made?
You mean the government, like with regulation?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I think that there will be efforts, but the genie's out of the bottle. And even if there are regulations, there are going to be people that go do whatever they want because it's so easy to use now that it won't be controllable. So, and it's different than something like medicine where there's, enforcement's a lot easier because there's a system in place already. So there are hospital systems, you have HIPAA regulations, you can be fined for those regulations with big organizations. That infrastructure doesn't exist in AI. I mean, other than the big companies like Google and OpenAI, but the average Joe, like I said, can go out and build. And that means that enforcement of regulation is just going to be too hard. And they're just going to be, honestly, it's like marijuana in the United States, where it's like, well, it's illegal, but we're going to turn a blind eye in a lot of states that have made it legal because there's just so many people using it and it's socially acceptable now. Okay, fine, whatever. It's sort of the same thing as there. I hope that reference was okay.
All right. I think you passed the message correctly. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. A+.
All right. Now let's talk briefly about EIG. Let's get to know EIG better. You focus a lot on engineered approach to co-creation. Yeah. And then you're into software development like crazy. So can you elaborate a bit about what this entails and then the journey so far, just give us a brief explanation of that.
Yeah. So the way our organization works is we're structured as a software. So we have product design, we have product marketing, engineering, quality assurance / quality engineering, DevOps, ongoing site reliability and support, anything you would expect in a software company, which is very different than most agencies that are either dev shops or product shops that are specialized code or developing a product design. We are your outsourced turnkey software company. So that's what really makes us different and I think has contributed to a lot of our success. It's a pretty different model. I think there are only 2 or 3 companies in the US that we can find work that way. I'm sure there are more. And that's definitely not to say we don't have competition, because we do, but that model is a lot of fun. It works really well. So founders will say, hey, I have this product. I went through a venture capital studio or group. I have X amount of dollars. They could either go take 6 to 10 months to hire a team and build it, or they can hire my company get off the ground in a product and market it in 3 to 4 months. And so a lot of folks choose to go that route because by the time we're finished working with them, they have a full software company. They can hire people in, start peeling our people off, and it's a seamless transition into them owning all of their work. So the journey to get there was I was working with VC groups and their products that they were wanting to launch or considering to launch. And I realized, man, they don't have any product people in the room. There aren't any engineers in here that are saying whether this is tenable, which means they can't do more sophisticated products because they don't have an engineer in the room. Now they had product people, but they were more designers and not like product management, like how do you actually structure and build the thing? And that's what led to the build out of our model was, well, let's be that. And most of the time those VCs will say, here you go, here's your money, good luck, not that crass, but point being, hey, you gotta go run it now. And that leaves especially new founders hanging. Like if you're not a technical person or have never worked in a software company, how terrifying is it to be like, well, now I got to build a software company. Where do I start? Like maybe the business acumen, they know who they're selling, but to build a product engineering organization from the ground up, that's hard. And if you get your first couple of hires wrong, your company's done, right? Before it even started. So yeah, that's how we got here.
Wow. So I guess it's more like a one-stop shop for anyone who want to get from idea to implementation, right?
That's right.
Oh, wow.
You said it better than I did.
Oh, and I said it in just bars.
Yeah. Perfect.
Wow, fantastic. All right. So what advice now, as we conclude, what advice would you give a young software developer coming into the industry?
Oh, I love this question. This is near and dear to my heart because I remember when I started out, the internet was pretty new. So I would go to the bookstore and I would search out ASP books and I would sit on the floor trying to find if it was answering the questions I had before I bought it. Because I was like, well, I can only buy one book this month. Let's see if it's the right one. Now you go ChatGPT and say, hey, write this code, right? So what I tell folks is what I find the biggest gap in talent is, and I think this is across the US, but it's probably the same anywhere, is folks that understand data. There are so many people that can write a front end application and very few people that understand how do you design a database. What are the different types? So there's relational databases, there are graph databases, document store databases. Just learn SQL and then learn about what the other types are. So you have a good grounding in just fundamental data management. That is going to get you so far in your career early on. I've had folks in my network that I mentor and I said that exact same thing to them. And they're the ones getting jobs like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's an outstanding advice. I guess people listening to this podcast are going to get a lot from this. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
All right. It's been an awesome time talking to you, Jake, and I really enjoy every moment. So I don't know if you have a question for me. I know I've been the one asking all the questions.
Yeah, let me ask a question.
All right.
For you and your listeners, other than the question you just asked me, like advice for folks getting into the industry, what is the most important thing to you for those types of people?
I think for people like that, the best thing they can actually get is information, of course. Yeah, to get access to information and all. In fact, this whole podcast was built just to pass that to them. So the first thing is the right information coming from people like you. Yeah, exactly, people like you. And I think that's basically what they really need.
I agree. I love that. And I love that you built this podcast around that ethos. And yeah, that's great. I thank you so much for having me. This has been fun.
Pleasure is mine.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to another exciting episode of the AI Autonomous Podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's discussion. If you want to stay updated on the latest developments, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media. Until next time, keep innovating and stay curious.